At this time, I would like to welcome today's guest speaker, John Pichet. John served in the U.S. Army from 1968 to 1971 with duty stations at Fort Eustis, Virginia, Vietnam, and Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia. In Vietnam, he served with the 1st Air Cavalry Division in 1969 and 1970. During his service, he was awarded the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal with 3 Bronze Stars, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Bronze Star Medal, 2 Purple Hearts, the Air Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, Valorous Unit Award, Meritorious Unit Commendation, Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross with Palm, Republic of Vietnam Civil Actions Medal Unit Citation, and the M16 Expert Marksmanship Badge. John is a member of the American Legion Post 305 and the Vietnam Veterans of America. He is a lifetime member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the Disabled American Veterans. He is currently a member and judge advocate of the Kent County Veterans Honor Guard. He has degrees in electronic engineering and business leadership and spent over 30 years of his working career in industrial robotics and machine tool automation. John has been married to his wife Laura for 53 years, has 3 children, Michelle, John Jr., and Valerie, and has 7 grandchildren. John resides in the village of Caledonia. Please welcome John Pichet.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate the kind introduction. Ed, our special guest, welcome. My fellow Legionnaires, fellow veterans, the band, ladies and gentlemen, I very much appreciate you all being here today. For me, this is a personal and gratifying honor to be speaking in what is now my hometown. I'm what my Irish ancestors would call a blow-in, a transplant from the east side of the state, now residing here in the village of Caledonia. I was asked to speak here today to present a perspective of what Memorial Day means to a combat veteran. I'm privileged to stand in front of you and speak of something about I hold so dearly, remembering those who lost their lives answering America's call to service. This isn't another speech in how Memorial Day has evolved since its inception, but just how it's evolved for this one American combat veteran. For Americans, the significance of observing Memorial Day is to remember and honor our fallen service members from past wars and conflicts, not only on behalf of our country and its Constitution, but on behalf of their communities, their families, and their friends. Like all of you, the service members we honor today came from all walks of life, everyday Americans, the majority of which shared basic fundamental community and distinctive qualities: courage, pride, high values, selflessness, dedication to duty, serving a cause larger than themselves. Many of them didn't ask to leave their homes and families and loved ones to fight on distant battlefields or oceans or in hostile airspace or combat areas of responsibility. Those many didn't volunteer but were drafted. Yet none of these individuals avoided their obligations as citizens and as members of our communities. They packed their bags, left their homes, their families, and they reported for duty. And they didn't go for the love of war or fighting, but for many reasons, they answered their nation's call. I grew up in the city of Detroit. Our family never attended Memorial Day parades or events. My dad didn't serve in the military, but I do remember having the day off of school and my dad having the day off of work, and the local TV stations played war movies all day. We hadn't lost any close family members or friends in any war. And while going to school, I was too busy with after-school activities or working to pay too much attention to the news. So while growing up, I had a rather naive understanding of the gratitude, the remembrance, and the commitment of carrying on the spirit of Memorial Day. I enlisted in the Army in August of 1968, right after high school, barely avoiding the draft. After basic training and 33 weeks of aircraft electrical and instrument training, I received orders for Vietnam. I arrived in late June of 1969, and after a month in country, I was assigned to a UH-1 Huey helicopter unit, Charlie Company of the 229th Assault Helicopter Battalion in the 1st Air Cavalry Division at a base camp called Tay Ninh, 9 short miles from the Cambodian border. The base camp was an easy target for frequent VC and NVA rocket and mortar attacks, as well as, or in conjunction with ground attacks on our perimeter defenses, which gave rise for our nickname to the base camp, Rocket Alley. My familiarity with aircraft instrumentation led me to be placed on flight status, flying test flights for preventive maintenance flights. And an extra $100 a month didn't hurt any either. And I got to fly because in order to read and record the instrument values, I got to fly front seat. That flight status led to my being volunteered to become a door gunner and fly when missions were short of one. Our unit was responsible for supporting 1st Air Cavalry Infantry units and in emergency situations other units, flying them from one place to another, known as combat assaults and extractions, as well as transporting supplies and material, many of these under fire. During my time with the company, we suffered a number of killed and wounded. As author Roy Mark stated in his book about Charlie Company, during my time, we suffered far too many Purple Hearts. I'd like to share with you a sense of my personal relationship with this day. I'd like to share with you the names of some of the individuals Charlie Company lost during my time there. These were men that I worked with, that I flew with, that I served perimeter guard with. Specialist Bob Almers, a door gunner, and I spent an entire day installing a smoke generator on his helicopter. He was killed when his helicopter went down the next day. Captain Gerald Swayze was killed during a combat assault. Captain William Lorimer, our commanding officer, was killed while flying a combat mission extraction. Staff Sergeant James Lee and Specialist Ron Parsons were killed some feet away from me during an attack on April 3rd. Specialist 6 Dick Heath, our technical inspector, was wounded during that same attack and died 10 days later. Warrant officers James Bullock, Sergeant Ray Ewell, and Alonzo Taylor were killed in a helicopter crash when their helicopter was caught in a severe thunderstorm. Warrant Officer Les Tatarski was killed during an emergency ammunition resupply for an isolated military unit. Les never got to see his infant daughter. Warrant Officer Mark Hold'em, Specialist Ernie Laidlaw, and Bob Painter, along with 5 others, died when their helicopters collided while on their way to pick up an infantry unit. John Stinn, a door gunner and friend, was killed when an enemy rocket-propelled grenade struck his helicopter when flying a command and control mission, a mission I had flown on many occasions. Sergeant Don Hall was a close friend from Millington, Michigan. Don was one of the mess hall cooks. And I guess he felt guilty about having others face the dangers of flight while he remained relatively safe in the mess hall. And we planned on getting together after we got home. But he volunteered to become a door gunner and was killed when his helicopter was shot down a few months after I left Vietnam. Don's buried in the Millington, Michigan cemetery between his mother and his dad. The company performed military funeral honors for each of the company's deceased members. The funeral honor ceremonies were conducted by an officer rendering a eulogy, a chaplain offering prayers, a 3-volley rifle salute, and it concluded with the sounding of taps. The sounding of taps still haunts me to this day. After my discharge from the Army, Memorial Day for me became a day of mourning. Maybe we'd have a family barbecue or a small get-together with a few friends, but I wasn't very good company. For me, it exacerbated all the frustration and guilt from my days of combat. For a number of years, I began spending the day going to Lake St. Clair, the Lake Huron shoreline, just before dawn and watch the sun come up. In Vietnam, that meant you lived to see another day. And while continuing the tradition after purchasing a sailboat, I began Memorial Day by going on to Lake St. Clair to watch the sun come up. I'd leave at dark 30 and anchor out in the middle of the day, the middle of Anchor Bay, At sunrise, I would honor my fallen comrades, reminisce, meditate, and shed some tears for my friends. I found that to be a release of sorts, and at least made me more bearable throughout the day. I never attended a Veterans Day ceremony or a Memorial Day event. At the encouragement some years ago, some of my Vietnam veteran friends, I began attending Vietnam Veterans Day and Veterans Day events in Mount Clemens on the east side of the state. But the sounding of taps caused me to break down. On Veterans Day of 2018, I stood with my fellow veterans at the Clifton Grove Cemetery in Mount Clemens during the military honors. And as taps sounded, the tears began to well up. As taps ended, I noticed a woman standing nearby with tears rolling down her face. As it ended, I stepped over and I asked if she was okay. She responded, her son had been killed in Afghanistan several months prior. She told me how much it meant for her to know we veterans were remembering and asked that we please never stop. Then she put on her head on my shoulder and just sobbed. I couldn't imagine the pain and the sorrow she was going through. A little over 5 years ago, we moved here to Caledonia from the east side of the state. My veteran friends here, Phil, Dan, Tom, you guys know who you are, convinced me it would be therapeutic to walk with them on Memorial Day and participate in Vietnam and on other veterans events. They were correct, and it has been. My military experiences have caused me, of course, now to have a very personal relationship with the spirit of Memorial Day. But the odds are many of you have not lost a family member in a war or conflict like the woman I met in Mount Clemens. It may be difficult to understand our feelings on this day. So try to think of it this way. If you've lost a close family member or a friend, recall the feeling of hurt that you lost. Many of you can still recall the day it occurred. And when the anniversary of that day comes along, those feelings you felt come back with it. Think about that. Because on this day, we combat veterans feel those same emotions remembering those that we lost. For me, Memorial Day is still difficult. It's a day filled with mixed emotions. Now, I'm not oversensitive, but it really upsets me when somebody even innocently walks up and says, "Happy Memorial Day." For us, there's nothing happy about it. It's also probably difficult for non-veterans to understand, but even simply thanking a veteran on this day for their service can be hurtful. And many combat veterans feel this way because this day is not about us or any veteran that served or is currently wearing a uniform. This day is to honor those that have perished in the service of our nation, those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and are no longer with us. Those we combat veterans and their family members were privileged to know, and we miss them terribly. So please, this Memorial Day, when you see a veteran, don't wish them happy Memorial Day. And if they're deep within their own thoughts, give them a moment. Give them some space. Give them some understanding. And finally, just maybe, give them a hug. Let them know you understand. And if they're willing to talk, listen to the stories they tell of their friends. In past years, we've heard people say, today is not just the unofficial first day of summer, or Memorial Day isn't just a day off. And while that's true, I think it's unreasonable to expect anyone to do nothing but remember our fallen. They call it fallen. That's what you do in a tub. These men and women were killed. While that's true, I think it's unreasonable. So when you leave here, go enjoy your day. Enjoy the extra time spent with family and friends. Enjoy your backyard barbecue or a day at the ballpark, or head out to the boat or to the beach, or however you spend it. But whatever you do today, please don't forget why you're enjoying it. Memorial Day is a day we as a country come together to honor and remember our servicemen and women who answered America's call to service and paid the ultimate price. Memorial Day is a day for Americans of all walks of life, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of political affiliations. It's a day for all of us to stand together and say thank you. We remember you. We are grateful for you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for remembering my friends. God bless you all.